from the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with your 5:30 update here on Wednesday, the September 4th, with Hurricane Dorian gradually making its way north-northwest. So this is your 5:30 update. And here on the screen, I've got basically a satellite and radar imagery showing Dorian there, starting to move north now and heading toward the Carolina coast. We can see some of the very, very far outer bands in the convergence there north of the storm there, given some shower activity there off the Carolina coast, and even a little thin line of showers that moved across the coastal plain. Those have largely weakened. And a lot of high clouds blowing off from the top of Dorian, spreading over the Carolinas. So that's what you see there. I will mention here real quickly. This is the text of the 5 o'clock update that just came in from the National Hurricane Center. And of course, the headlines there are that the Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft report that Dorian strengthened a little, and so maximum sustained winds of 110 miles per hour. So anyway, a little bit of strengthening. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, and as the data continues to roll in. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over to our PowerPoint. And again, this is our 5:30 update. So jumping right into things as it relates to central North Carolina weather, our tropical storm warnings and flash flood watch, those have not changed. So no changes there, and from what we shared at 11:30. As I kind of pointed out already, here's the 5 p.m. update. A little bit of strengthening since earlier today. And again, as we've been advertising, wind and flooding rain are our two main concerns here for central North Carolina. Our thinking has maybe tweaked just a little bit. I think really the big thought change here is that maybe impacts will be more confined, along and east of I-95. We always, it's almost like a winter storm in a way. Where's that transition zone? Where you have this narrow corridor where hazards and impacts change. Well, this is kind of similar in that, because hazards and impacts will quickly diminish westward. But where is that line, if you will, of where impacts and hazards decrease quickly? We think that transition from where things go from pretty hazardous with lots of wind and rain to like next to nothing at all, that transition zone is going to happen somewhere between I-95 and the US 1 corridor. But we don't know exactly, which side of that corridor that transition will take place. So suffice it to say that east of I-95 is the place where, we think the highest wind will occur and the heaviest rainfall amounts, and thus the greatest hazards. Thursday, late Thursday through Friday is before the storm pulls away. Through midday Friday, that is, before the storm pulls away. All right, so wind and rain, that's our biggest concern. No changes there with tropical storm force probabilities. Pretty good for eastern portions of central North Carolina, with hurricane force winds remaining along the coast. Okay, and the timing, really no change there. We're looking at the most likely time. Apologize for that. I'm not sure what happened there, but let's try to get back to our slides. Bear with me here for a second. I'm not sure what happened to my PowerPoint. It appears to have closed on me. All right, so let me see if I can get that back up on the screen. Not sure what or why that happened, but bear with me here for just a second, and we will get the PowerPoint back up and running. All right, sorry about that. All right, I think we're back up to where we were. All right, very good. So we could see some of those winds increasing during the daytime on Thursday afternoon, when those tropical storm force winds are likely to begin to maybe be felt across southern portions of central North Carolina. All in all, this map is meant to show kind of visually which portions of central North Carolina have the greatest threat. And as we talked about, east of I-95 is where we think the greatest wind threat is, of 40 to 60 miles per hour. In that corridor between I-95, and let me see if I can get my highlighter back out here, that corridor between I-95 and the US 1 corridor, and I apologize that the yellow doesn't show up on top of yellow. But anyway, in that corridor is where that transition will occur from, it's pretty windy to it's not much wind at all, and it's going to be a sharp cutoff. So so we think the best chance for trees blowing over and power outages will be along and east of I-95. West of I-95, again, there could be, a few isolated trees and power lines down. But again, it looks like along and east of I-95 where we think the greatest threat is. And again, Thursday afternoon through Friday morning. All right. So let me get rid of the highlighter here and get back to being able to change. This is just updated with the 72-hour maximum wind gusts. These are not sustained. These are gusts. So clearly along the coast, that's where the greatest threat is for the most damaging winds. And then along and east of I-95, that's where we really see the damage potential really increasing in terms of wind damage. Again, between I-95 and US 1, there could still be 40, maybe 50 mile an hour wind gusts, but the risk for damage decreases. We still show winds, approaching 35 miles per hour as far back as Greensboro. Keep in mind the criteria for tropical storm is 39, so 33 is well below tropical storm strength. So we don't have the warnings, back further west of the Triad, but it'll be pretty windy. I mean, 30 winds and gusts in the low 30s could maybe knock some garbage cans over, or maybe blow a little bit of patio furniture around. So that's what we're expecting further west. We think the risk for tornadoes will be mainly across the eastern third of the state. So that's what this graph is highlighting, and then rainfall. So we're thinking 4 to 8 inches of rainfall east of I-95 and 1 to 4 inches between US 1 and I-95. Highest east in both of those zones. Again, between 95 and US 1, there's going to be a very, very sharp gradient. If you're on the western side, if you're closer to US 1, it may only be 1 inch. But if you're closer to I-95, it's probably going to be closer to 4 inches. If you're east of I-95, it's going to be greater than 4 inches. So that's the way things are shaping up. And again, when these heavy bands of rain move through, that's when flash flood potential is going to be maximized. And this map is just another way of depicting the areas of central North Carolina that have the greatest risk for flash flooding. All right, rivers, nothing really different than what Barrett showed earlier today. To really summarize it just in a succinct way, the water is going to give us a little rise on the area rivers at Cape Fear, and you'll notice the further downstream you go, the bigger the bump. Okay, and the same thing with the Neuse Basin. Goldsboro, you see a much larger rise there compared to Clayton. That's because the heavier rain is further east. But in all cases, it's below flood stage. That's the good news. Same thing on the Tar. The further downstream you go, the bigger the bump on the river. But fortunately, again, it remains below flood stage. And the only place we note that there could be a potential for some flooding in the state will be, along the immediate coastal areas in terms of river flooding. All right, so I showed this graphic earlier, and I didn't change it because it's still pretty valid. Thursday morning we'll see some of the rain showers on the northern periphery begin to move up into southeast North Carolina, and then it just continues to expand throughout the afternoon. On Thursday, again, mainly east and south of the Triangle region. By Thursday evening, those band intensity picks up. Thursday night into early Friday morning, you can see there's a couple of pretty intense rain bands moving across eastern most North Carolina and moving across the I-95 corridor. Again, with those bands, that's where we see heavy rain. And really the potential for those 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. If I could, make one slight tweak to this particular graphic, I might place this band maybe just a bit further to the east because of the placement of the center of the storm. So this may be a little bit further east, to kind of mesh with what we mentioned, the risk for highest winds along and east of I-95. So that'll be the time overnight. Tomorrow night is when we expect the strongest winds to occur in the I-95 corridor, and when we think the greatest risk for downing of trees and power outages. And then by Friday morning, things begin to shift east, and by Friday afternoon, things will really be winding down pretty quickly, even across eastern North Carolina. All right, so that takes us to our summary slide. Confidence is pretty high. Again, the main hazards we think are wind and rain. Potential for tropical storm strength wind gusts could blow over trees and produce power outages, mainly along and east of I-95, and particularly east of I-95. And the further you get east of I-95, the stronger the winds, and that'll be Thursday. Mainly building up during the afternoon, and that'll run through about midday Friday. Again, the worst of it overnight, tomorrow night, Thursday night. Rainfall amounts of 4 to 8 inches east of I-95 and 1 to 4 inches between US 1 and I-95. And that heavy rainfall, where it does fall heavy, can result in flash flooding, again, Thursday through midday Friday. All right. The risk for tornadoes, we don't want to totally disregard that, but it's pretty low, mainly across the southeastern zones Thursday and Thursday night. All right, that's our 5:30 update. Really no notable or significant changes from this morning. We will send out this email or this briefing. We'll send this out by email along with uploading this briefing to to YouTube. If there's any major changes this evening or evening shift, we'll update and email these slides out. Either way, no matter what, you'll get a new fresh set of slides by tomorrow morning. So that is our 5:30 update for Central North Carolina, and the